Should be good, Bruce.
Okay, I'll call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. Everybody stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so you guys want to do roll call, please?
Yep. Steve Bigelow,
Here.
Ryan Telshaw,
Here.
Ian McDonald,
Here.
Lori Belargin. Lori Belargin.
I don't see it. Looks like a cutout.
Well, while you're doing that, Bruce Belargin,
Here.
Danny Erickson. Here. Matt Foucault.
Here. I heard we were going to pledge.
I'm sorry, I'm here.
There you go.
Thank you.
All right, try to watch. Okay, district mission, together we engage. Lori, can you mute yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm
the computer.
trying to fix it.
All right,
There I am. Okay, good.
thanks. All right, together we engage, educate, and empower all learners, bridging their passions to pathways to create successful futures and positively contribute to our local and global communities. I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to put item 3, start spotlight at number 2, public comment.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Daniel, second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
I,
Any opposed? All right, then we will move forward with Spartan Spotlight. So Don, Kristen, and those students.
So we brought with you 4 of the shining stars you see from there today, and they're going to tell you a little bit about kind of what life was like. Why don't we start by telling us a little bit about what play we did this year?
Maybe their names first,
Oh,
and they're
sure.
great.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm Audrey Dalzell, I'm in 8th grade.
I'm Edith Delzell, I'm in 6th grade.
I'm Desiree Luloff, I'm in 8th grade.
I'm Ava Epner, I'm in 8th grade.
We did 21 guaranteed ways to get detention, and it was about the 2 assistant principals had 20 detentions to give out for the whole year, and they gave out 20 in one day.
They didn't have what you would call the wonderful students we have here at Somerset to deal with in that play. And then this was not your first year, but for all of you it was the first year. Can you tell me a little bit about what it was like being a first-year drama member?
Yeah, it was actually really fun. Miss Plater and Miss Peer did a really good job instructing it, and I plan on doing it again next year in high school.
I also plan on doing it in high school. It was really fun, and it got me out of my comfort zone, and now I feel more comfortable just doing random things.
Even this? And what about you, Edith?
It got me a lot more confident to speak in front of a bigger crowd, not just your family or friends.
And then Edith, will you tell them a little bit about the 3 shows we put on this year?
So we got to perform in front of the 4th and 5th graders. It was fun to perform in front of people you know. And then we had 2 shows for parents or anybody not there for the 4th and 5th grade one. It was just fun to have more than one show after that work you did.
Over the years, Miss Peer was just saying she's been doing it for 12. I think I've been in for 9, she tells me, but I didn't realize it had been that long. And we have been kind of shuffled to every corner of the district where we could put on a show. We did one in a flex space for a few years, and then we thought we had cracked the code and took over the old elementary stage, and then other people found out that was a good place. So trying to find a place to practice where there's not after school care and a million other things going on, and to perform, and when the choir doesn't need it or this has been a challenge, and we could not be more excited about the upcoming Performing Arts Center of having that opportunity. We're so grateful for the support of the community in doing that. We're a little nervous about putting on an actual, like, real tech performance.
With lights.
With like lights and maybe microphones, you might be able to hear them. it's wild. We're so excited, and we really hope the high schoolers will help us with that. But it's really just been fun. It's great kids every year. You can see, I mean, we just had a great time every day. Like every show, they did a wonderful job. They memorized the whole thing. There were no dropped lines. There were no mistakes. Nobody ran off the stage crying. And just
And 4 weeks.
yeah, and we do all of it in about 4 or 5 weeks. So it's a quick turnaround for a really good time. Yeah.
How many nights after school, is it after school, I'm guessing you prepare for, or weekend? How many nights a week do you?
5 nights a week.
And when?
Usually.
What time usually?
We're usually done by about 5.
Right
So,
after school.
Yeah, we walk right
Until
over to
5.
the elementary after school and practice. We gave them all of their parts before Christmas this year.
Okay.
And so they were able to come back pretty well memorized. That helped a lot, because then we could just jump right into practice. And some of them had a lot of lines to memorize. So, and it was really fun to see the sisters in a scene together. Tell them about your character, because your sister was a principal. She was very normal, but you were Chauncey. You were not normal.
I was a gross character, and there were some scenes where the principals were talking, and they were calling me like disgusting. So yeah.
We laughed when the principals came and watched. They were like, "We don't talk about kids this way." I was like, "That's what makes it funny." So they did a great job. So anything else to add, folks? Any questions?
All right, thanks for coming in, thanks for doing it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for letting us cut in.
Yeah. All right, good luck tonight.
Thank
See
you.
you in a little bit. All right, we'll get back to public comment. Andrea, you are up first.
Andrea Newman, 5682 32nd Avenue. Members of the Somerset School Board, tonight's agenda includes an item to consider my family's petition to change school district boundaries. While I'm hopeful the board will give our application thoughtful consideration and ultimately approve it, there's also a possibility that it may be denied. If the petition is denied, families have the right to appeal their case to the School District Boundary Appeal Board. This group makes decisions based on Wisconsin State Statute 11715, which outlines the criteria for school district reorganizations. According to the statute, the panel must consider factors that, quote, affect the educational welfare of all children. One of these factors is the educational needs of students. When comparing course offerings at Somerset and Osceola, it's clear that Osceola provides more variety, particularly in agriculture and CTE tech ed courses. In Osceola, our children have greater opportunities. This is apparent when helping our child select courses for next year. I urge you to focus on what's best for these children rather than what's best for the district. I would also like to express my gratitude to Lori Belargin, who reached out after the February 10th work session to inform us of another family interested in swapping school districts. Although we had passed the February 1st deadline, this presented an opportunity for a simple, straightforward solution for both school districts. Unfortunately, Shannon Donnelly was unwilling to pursue this amicable solution, even when the family involved was one of your own staff members. This lack of consideration is disheartening and disappointing. Tonight, I respectfully ask the board to consider Wisconsin State Statute 11715 and approve our boundary petition, as it clearly serves the best interest of our children's educational welfare. Thank you.
Gary?
Terrence Newman, 568 232nd Avenue. Members of the Somerset School Board, we attended the Somerset School District's February 10th work session to address questions and provide clarification on our boundary petition, which is on tonight's agenda for consideration. However, other than a brief statement from the board president, there was no further discussion, questions, or comments. This lack of engagement leads us to believe the board was unfamiliar with our petition until it appeared on the agenda that evening. It's disheartening to have taken the time to attend the meeting in an effort to promote understanding, only to find there was no discussion at all. This approach seems inconsistent with the board's own protocol reminder, which encourages members to attend board meetings prepared. Tonight, I urge the board to consider our petition in line with its second protocol, which emphasizes making decisions that are in the best interests of all students. As parents, we advocate for what's best for our children. We firmly believe this petition is in the best interest of our family and for our children's educational welfare. You might feel inclined to make your decision based upon what's best for the district today. But your board protocols, Wisconsin statutes, and the criteria guidelines for the state appeals board all emphasize the focus should be on what's best for the child. As outlined in our letter to the board, we are requesting a boundary change to move our home from the Somerset School District to Osceola School District, where it was originally assigned before the Harold Schochner family successfully petitioned for a boundary change in the 1960s. Similar to the Schochners' ties to Somerset, our family has strong connections to Osceola, including family relationships, a family farm, and active involvement in the community through high school powerlifting, 4-H, and participation in the Osceola Fair. Research shows that an improvement in student learning is in connection with these student connections to the community. Additionally, approving this petition would alleviate the logistical burden of transporting our children each day and, more importantly, would offer our children greater educational equity in regards to special education as we navigate the system. At the January 8th Osceola School Board meeting, it was reported that no seats are available in their special education program for open enrolled students. As parents of open
15
enrolled
seconds.
students, it is concerning to think that seeking educational support or accommodations for our children might jeopardize their enrollment status. How is that equitable or in the best interest of our children?
Thank you, Terry. Corey.
Corey Miller, 100th Street, Somerset. Looking forward to the conversation on DEI tonight. As you know, it's been a hot topic for years now, and I chose this topic as one to email the board about going on 4 years ago, not because I necessarily felt like it was the most critical to in a top school priorities for optimizing academic performance, but because I felt like it was the easiest one for the board and the community to unite on. I felt like in my research of the topic of DEI, SEL, the connections, its history, its kind of rapid infusion into the public school system was a great opportunity for the community and the board to really, discuss it, because it was abnormal at minimum. My emails included references to the groups like CASEL that were very influential in coming up with this whole movement. It's been around many years before that. It's a fascinating history, and I was really disappointed to not really get much engagement. It wasn't a topic that the board would really engage on. It was kind of like, let's just ignore this. And so I'm glad that it's finally getting attention, and I hope that part of we always want to look forward and move forward to better days and better cooperation and more unity, 100%, but we can always spend a little time retroactively, how could we have maybe done this better, so that maybe if we had better, more in-depth conversation, kind of like your reference, the depth of conversation, the detail, I think is a tool that really could help with unity between the board and the community and parents, just to show that you guys really do understand all the key opinions that are out there, and that you're fairly representing all major opinions. So I look forward to hearing how it goes.
All right, thanks, Corey. All right, next item on the agenda is reports. The first one, the referendum invoices. If anybody has any questions about that, That's just from Mark Johnson for co-projects we're working on. Listening session summary, no one came to the listening session tonight. And then financial enrollment reports. Anybody have any questions or anybody reach out to Dave if they had anything? All right. Okay, with no questions, we'll move on to item 5, which is the petition to alter the school district boundaries. So to get this one started, I'll just ask if there's a motion to approve or deny the petition. Tonight, does anybody have a motion? Make a motion and then we'll discuss it.
Motion to deny the petition.
Okay, Laura makes a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, and I'll, we have a second, so we'll discuss. Any discussion from any member of the board?
I would have been really open to switching to a Somerset district member who wanted to take that place. So I'm really sorry that didn't work out and that you missed that deadline.
And I just asked too, discussion-wise, so I had to attend virtually last meeting, and I wasn't able to make the whole meeting, but that deadline, so Lori provided you a name of an individual that was willing to switch. It sounds like February 1st, is that the deadline to put that documentation in?
Lori, maybe you can jump into how this works, if you want, otherwise I can summarize.
Yes, please. The February 1st deadline is written into the state statute. It is not within the district's or Shannon's power to change it or make an exception.
Okay.
When I spoke with the Newmans, I gave them a idea. Many years ago, we had a property exchange between the Somerset district and the New Richmond district. And I mentioned this possibility to another individual in the Somerset School District who had wanted to make a transfer with Hudson. The February 1st deadline, though, is written in the state statute. There's nothing we can do about it.
Thanks for clarifying that.
So when I look at this map, you're in a blue triangle, or excuse me, the blue rectangle on the map, is that correct?
Yeah.
Can you put the map up?
Yep.
Lisa? So the purple represents Osceola, is that correct?
Yeah.
All right, so since I haven't been on board that long, just from my understanding of the history, so I see there's a lot of purple interspersed in here, which means Osceola is actually in quite a few of the areas that would be Somerset. Lori, can you tell me some of the history on that? Why we've got, you know, all this interchangeable,
From what I understand, this was, people got to choose a long time ago when all of the county or the township schools all disbanded or whatever. Everybody got to kind of pick and choose what school they went to, and then that's the schools that,
Okay,
that's how that property got into that.
so that's quite a while ago.
Yeah, it was, yeah, so, and this happens on the edge of New Richmond, and this happens on the edge of Hudson. And we kind of have that same, there's a few of these mixed in, and I know some of the times we've talked about, you know, pulling someone out to swap with somebody else, like if it's somebody who's in, you know, kind of an island somewhere.
Right.
You know, this one to me would now create another island by doing this, and again, when you buy a spot of land in a school district, knowing that you're in that school district, you're kind of stuck to go to that school district unless you want to open enroll somewhere else. So, that's, I mean, if you want to be in Osceola, there's a lot of purple in Osceola.
Yeah, I'll just finish my comment then. I just,
Like that, could I add to what Bruce said there? One of the main factors that a review board considers in a boundary appeal is whether the change would make the school district's borders smoother. And this change that the Newmans are requesting definitely would not help make the border smoother.
Go ahead, man.
I just want to follow and just say that, like, I appreciate that you guys want to, you know, send your kids to the district that you want. But I agree with Bruce that, you know, it does kind of create another island. And, you know, once we make that one change in the middle of our district, you know, why shouldn't we make the next change? It has the potential to become a slippery slope. I would encourage you, you know, if we can cross this bridge again earlier next year and, you know, maybe make a swap, I'm in full agreement with having that conversation again. You know, I understand the state statute deadline, so if we can revisit it. But I would have to say, I can't agree with giving up property in the middle of the district as it sits today.
I would also echo, you know, the fact that we could set a precedent here, and, you know, there will be future requests, so.
We have to protect our tax base, as it says.
Any other questions or discussion, comments? Okay, and like, I think like Lori said, you know, our superintendent does not approve or deny any of keeping this from happening or anything that has to do with approving people leaving. That is only through the board. So nothing to do with what our superintendent can perform as a district administrator, so. All right, so with the motion and a second on the table, call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 7-0. All right, thanks for coming in. All right, next item is item 6, policy 545101 and 545102. As we talked about last time, basically just asking for a motion to designate one person for each of these scholarships. So if anybody wants to make that motion. Motion for this.
I'll make a motion to approve the policies as presented on the agenda, 6A and B.
Recommend.
Yeah, with recommended changes.
Well, the recommend of designate one senior is what we have to say.
With the recommendation of one senior for each of them.
Is there a second? Steve, a second. All right, any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? Any opposed? All right, motion passes 7-0. All right, okay, item 7, strategic plan discussion. So, this one we have items 1.3 and 1.4 from our strategic plan for discussion tonight. My goal is to take notes from our discussion and then at the next meeting have input back from our administrative team as they'll be at the next meeting. Questions or things we want clarifications on. Or more information you would like on either of these topics. So, if we want to start with one of them, I know 1.3 is listed first, and Steve is possibly doing 1.4 first. It doesn't matter to me which one we want to discuss first.
All right.
So if we wanted to go with 1.4, we'll take notes. I just trying to keep them separate.
Sure.
As much as we can tonight. So.
Yeah, if we can go with 1.4, then that'd be great. If you don't mind, you
Does
start
anybody
with that.
care? We start with 1. Okay. So we'll start with 1.4. So it's promote a culture of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging for all students. So, anybody want to start?
Yeah. So, as far as this topic goes, we've got 3 major reasons to address this right now. We've got an executive order. There's other practical reasons, including competitiveness for our school. to appeal to current and potential future customers. When I say customers, I mean parents or guardians who enroll their children in school. Plus DEI, if we go into that a little bit, it is discriminatory practice, in my opinion. And obviously, the president also sees it that way, and the House and the Senate of the United States. I would imagine if this gets to the Supreme Court, it would be deemed unconstitutional because the word equal is missing. There's a lot of talk of equity, but that's different than equality. So the Declaration of Independence talks about equality. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. We the people is part of our Constitution. And in the 14th Amendment, we've got Equal Protection Clause, which is the legal backbone of equality. And we cannot discriminate arbitrarily. So that's the problem with DEI, is it can pit one group of kids against another group. It divides kids into two groups, students into two groups. So more than ever, our schools need to be competitive, and we cannot sustain a status quo mindset where we operate clearly like we have a monopoly on education choices for our families. Our families have other choices more now than ever. So for our schools to be healthy financially and be competitive, this is something that would help that case. And we as a school district, if we can take the lead in that and not wait, that would be helpful as far as our marketing efforts go concerning our school. As such, we can no longer take the excuses or find excuses for lower birth rates and how that's affecting our school enrollment. Yes, that might be the case, but at the same time, if we have a competitive school district, then we can hopefully get more students to enroll, families will be confident and feel secure in what we have to offer. So, I don't have a lot more to say, but I'll just expand just a little bit, because there is some confusion. DEI sounds great on the surface. The words themselves, well, that sounds good, but through these last few years, we've noticed a real push to implement DEI, not only in our schools, but businesses, and now that's falling by the wayside. We're finding out that DEI is not all it's cracked up to be. Like I mentioned before, from a practicality standpoint, we've got oppressors and the oppressed. And when you're dealing with children, that's a lot of extra baggage to put on someone who could be labeled as an oppressor. Extra baggage on these students that's unearned. These are innocent children that we have here, and they've done nothing wrong. It affects many areas of their lives, from social interactions to their academics. And then for the oppressed, it's not a great thing either, because if it's race-based or behavioral-based, these students are told everything is against you and you cannot achieve things unless you have all these things for you, and the government will provide those. How will these students be able to succeed if they're taught to be victims? So it negatively affects our students, and every word uttered in DEI actually results in the opposite thing happening. The word equity destroys the word excellence, because excellence in itself is the enemy of equity. Any motivation you have to be excellent is stolen by equity. Artificially bring others up to the same spot of an excellent student, no one's going to be able to achieve. This kind of mindset is similar to why DPI lowered their standards in the state. How has DEI and SEL produced measurable success in performance since it was adopted in our strategic plan? you know, I would like to see any proof that it has resulted in anything substantial. But that's all I've got to say on it, so.
Okay, so I'm trying to figure out what can be addressed, like, what do you think is happening in Somerset that is DEI? Or I guess I'm just trying to understand what you think DEI is happening at Somerset. What diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging issues are having at Somerset? What are we doing here?
Well, the fact that we have it in a strategic plan and apparently was voted on to be included in the strategic plan before I was on the board, that's concerning.
I guess I'm just trying to understand what is happening in our schools that you don't agree with, I guess, or that diversity, equity, and inclusion is happening in our schools. What specifically is happening here that we could get more information on?
We've got books and libraries. We also have SEL.
SEL is a separate item.
It is a separate item, but it's all included. It's all part of that. So it's just the fact that it's in a strategic plan.
But what is in the strategic plan?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's right in there, the pillar.
I agree it's in there, but I'm just wondering what you think it is.
I just explained what it is.
Bruce, may I?
Sure. Go ahead, Lori.
I think at least what I thought the purpose of the discussion tonight was to figure out what kinds of questions we want to ask the administrators or what kind of information we would like the administrators to bring back. And I think what we heard from Steve very clearly illustrates that what we need is for the administrators to explain exactly what is happening in each of the buildings, the action steps that are being taken to address this goal. And I would also like to remind the board that not only did we approve this plan, but this plan was designed not by the board. It was designed by the community. There were many community members involved in many meetings, and they're the ones who came up with this plan, not the board. We approved it, it was presented to us, and we approved it, but it was led by the community.
Yeah.
So
I have a couple questions I'd like.
So Danny spoke up first. I'll let Danny go ahead.
I do think that there is perhaps maybe two different ideas on what DEI is, two different methods of thinking about it. So some clarity in this will help, and I have some ideas on that, but go.
So I'm going to just piggyback off that first, and I can't agree with you more. I think that there are two drastic differences in kind of the statement of DEI and having diversity, equity, and inclusion as kind of an overall general plan. I agree completely, and I guess the way I look at this, and I have since the beginning when we approved this, was that to me this wasn't a fundamental change in the way we do things, in the money we accept, in the programs that we put into place. Nothing changed with the exception or the acceptance of that strategic plan. But what we did say was that, hey, the community said they want this, and we agreed, and that we're gonna say and put a stake in the ground that we support everybody that comes to this district. I heard a speaker just this week, and he said, you know, to him, the word diversity means, it means bringing a bunch of voices to the table to really get the all-inclusive voice of the group. And I was like, wow, that's exactly what it is. It's not about just singling somebody out and putting something in place. It's truly listening to everybody. So I appreciate you saying that. So the questions that I'd like, this is kind of when I think of, okay, this 1.4. what programs do we currently have in place that are here solely as a result of having 1.4 on the strategic plan? That's what I'd like to know.
What prior?
What programs do we currently have that are in place solely as a result of that statement? Maybe there is some that I'm not aware of, but I'd like to know. What funding do we receive that is specific to having that statement on the strategic plan? Again, I'm not saying I support it. If we want to say, hey, let's amend it and take it off, I support that. But I just want to know, is there any funding that says, hey, we don't get the money unless that's on the plan? Okay?
Yep.
Was there a statement similar to this on our prior strategic plan? I'm thinking that there was, but I'm drawing blank, so I'd like maybe a reference back to what that was. And then probably my last one was, how many community members or individuals participated in that workshop that formed that plan? There's gotta be documentation. I'd like to know how many people were actually there.
I have another thing to add. Just a quote from Hanover Research as I was digging more into this. They say that supporting DEI in K-12 education can't simply be a project or an initiative. It takes a mindset and a focus on systemic transformation. So this is a philosophy. It is hyper-focused on race. It is not diversity of thought. It's not diversity of intellect or talent or one's contribution to society. It is focusing on skin color, physical appearances, and classifications, which is a discredit to everybody. Diversity in the workplace, not quite sure in education, but it does focus on quotas. Inclusion can become compelled speech. And like Steve said, equity is the opposite of excellence. So here in Somerset, we believe all students can learn and be empowered. And we don't need a dangerous philosophy if that's what we have to accomplish that mission. So we do need to figure out what we have.
Yeah, that's why I had no problem putting this on for discussion, because I want to understand what Somerset is doing that could possibly cause issues. And I think that's a lot of the interactions I've had though, with people this whole time. I don't think the things that I've seen in the executive orders or the letters are things that are happening in the Somerset School District. Like, to me, those things aren't happening here from what I understand. So.
Can I ask a question, Bruce?
Yeah. Go ahead.
So, why do you think I mean, your opinion, do you have an opinion on why it's okay to have that language in our strategic plan? When it obviously mirrors DEI. I mean, that's what it is, it's DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. So why do we need that in our strategic plan?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Yeah.
I don't have any problem with any of those words.
You don't have a problem with equity?
No.
What does equity mean to you, Bruce?
Can I answer that?
Go ahead.
Looking forward to it. So if somebody's having more trouble understanding a concept in math and needs more help to get to where another student is that okay or not?
That's not the term.
That's equity.
Every student has equal opportunity. That's
To
what we
me,
should be.
So if you need extra help, you're allowed.
Equity isn't, to me, racially based. It is learning disability, it is socioeconomic, it is coming from different backgrounds. It's more than just, it's not a racial thing to me. It's wherever you come from, what you have that you're working with that puts you in the situation you are, and understanding that we don't all come from the same background and the same, that some of us are hungry when we get to school. I mean, those are things that we need to understand.
But we should understand that as Americans, is that we all are created equal. We have equal opportunity. But that doesn't mean we have to dwell on this group versus this group, and that's what it does. It pits one against the other.
I don't see it that way. I don't see anything getting pitted, groups being pitted against each other. And I would hope, and again to your point, that as Americans, we shouldn't be pitting each other against one another. Like that I don't think that at all.
Well, what I want to touch on is it has gotten a very negative stigma nationwide.
And I mean, that's something that we do need to address, but in principle, DEI is a good thing. I mean, it's good to be diverse. Equity of opportunity, I think that's what you were trying to touch on. We should have equity of opportunity. We can never expect equity of outcome because you can't force that. I mean, because one person might work harder than the other or whatever, but you should have, every kid should have equity of opportunity. To where I think we're looking at it, we're looking at DEI, or some of us are looking at DEI locally within the community, and where others are focusing on the national definition of it, which has gotten a very negative stigma. I mean, that there wouldn't be all the motions and everything from the president on down that have happened if it wasn't for the negative things. That's where, Matt, you touched on funding. I would really like to see what funding directly goes into DEI within the district, because I don't see it here. I didn't see anything in the budget that was directly related to that, but that could be better explained to us. But nationally, people are seeing a ton of money being spent on this and not seeing any positive outcome of it. So I think having a good definition of it, you know, and explaining, yes, it says DEI, but it's not the DEI that everybody's worried about. And if we're not doing it, because I think having diversity in the district is great. I grew up here in the 90s, there was no diversity. And then when you went to a larger community, it was like you had to learn and see that people had different experiences. And having that, having equity, having everybody have the same opportunity, like you said, kids come to school hungry. Kids might not have parents that work with them outside of it and everything. So that's, I mean, having those things are good, but we also have to acknowledge the fact that there's been such a negative stigma put on the exact wording, and finding a way to put that forward as a district and having the information that we need, and having those things available in the district too.
And that's what I want presented, you know, what is happening here, even though we might have a whole nation saying these are well, we don't have hiding practices, we don't have, you know, offices of, you know, DEI officers in our school, we don't have those things here. Danny, you had something.
I was just gonna go back to what Ian said, I mean, and talking about equity and a kid getting, didn't we have that before DEI? Like, wasn't that kid getting a fair education before all this started to?
Absolutely, can I elaborate?
Yeah.
I didn't,
Yeah, keep going.
I had an issue with equity being a bad word. I agree with Ryan in his point that DEI itself nationally, I disagree with, is bad. I don't know what's happening here, that like the companies we work with, all they have like DEI managers, they have.
It's going by the wayside.
Maybe, it hasn't yet. But yes, that I can totally concur with. That it's counterproductive. But I don't see it, it's unfortunate the wording is the way it is. But the words themselves aren't.
And like a couple of statements we have here, we have clarity on DEI, or diversity, equity, inclusion in each school. What diversity means, and what programs are in place that could result, as a result of this, on our, that Matt brought up, what funding do we receive, if any, because we have this statement in our strategic plan. Yeah, I just.
Can we add something that more addresses the equity? Is our programs more focused on equity of opportunity or equity of outcome? Because I know at the state level, there are equity of outcome.
So our program is.
We're aligned towards, because the opportunity should be there, but you can't, you know, when it comes to outcome, that's where it becomes counterproductive.
The opportunity.
Yeah. Where if you adjust test scores, things like that, based on certain things or whatever.
Really, those are things that we can get additional information on presented to us.
Again, I think equity just is counterintuitive to excellence. It's the enemy of excellence.
Any other discussion on this? I know Shannon has a few things she was prepared to present on tonight, but we can add these to what she is also going to do. Oh, yeah, so then and Danny, you can explain. Or Lori, do you have anything else before Danny goes into that Excel sheet she had?
Just that, if possible, to have the administrators clarify or present any information about the action steps for each of these goals.
Action steps in each school, right?
Yes, please.
Okay,
Do we have any other discussion, or?
I was gonna let Danny go with on her, that Excel sheet, and then we can.
All right, so I just had an idea on how to break this down into bite-sized pieces, because it could be a large project if we do it right, to see what we have here. So Bruce sent this out to everybody. I broke this down into 5 categories: HR, finance, policy. If I could scroll down, that would be great. Not working. Curriculum. And basically, this is just a spreadsheet that would help us prioritize and bump things up to the top that could be a risk for removing funding. Step 1 is just to identify different policies within HR and assign somebody to take a look at those,
When you say policy, what do you mean?
like employee policies for HR.
So you're just saying to verify that this
Yeah.
isn't in our employee policy, so.
Correct,
So like,
pertaining to DEI.
maybe just, what's your main goal of this document, I guess?
Yeah, just to break things up into different sections and take a micro look, assign duties to different people in a transparent way that everybody can see, board and administration, we can track who's doing what. Dave there's a place in here for grants that Dave could address. There's a way to prioritize this with high, medium, or low. Things can get moved to a column to ask legal. Step 3, so step 1 was gathering information, step 2 is prioritizing it as a risk or not risk. Step 3 would be moving anything into a legal column. Things would come to the board to look at and to decide to keep or possibly get rid of. And then the board can move those into the done channel. I have this for about 2 weeks, it's a 2-week project. Could be an easy piece for somebody to ORR if they're interested in looking at what we have, just a nice clean document. Everybody can see everything in one spot instead of stacks of papers, it's all housed here.
I guess let me just, you help me clarify. So this would be for anything that has like the term diversity in it?
Diversity, yep, all of it, DEI, yep.
So
And somebody would save the stuff right to this?
Yep, there's a place for links.
who would go about finding this stuff, I guess? So you're talking about looking at policies, so we're looking at all of our policies, then any of our training information. any of our
Training would
HR.
be, for example, HR, I was thinking maybe Rochelle or Shannon, Dave could handle finance. Shannon curriculum, we could probably do policy, and then the vendors, Neola could do an audit of our policies, and they could give feedback on what we have for DEI, WIAA, CISA, NEA, WASB. I would like counselors to contribute. For curriculum, K through 12 online content, K through 12 worksheets, K through 12 curriculum books, K through 12 workshops. It's a bit of work.
So. Anybody have any immediate thoughts on this?
I like the idea of breaking it down for clarification, to do an audit, to see, you know, what's in our school, you brought that up, so I think that's important.
I'm thinking that this may be a bit premature, and we should hear what the administrators have to present at our March work session.
That's a valid question, what would it take to do that?
What would it take to do this?
Probably around 200 hours.
I think it's necessary, or otherwise we're gonna continue to hear the argument. How is it in our schools? Why are we saying it's in our schools? I think, you know, if you want to validate the point that it isn't, then something like this is extremely important.
Yeah, that's where I kind of wait, like, how much do I want to get? I agree, I mean, that would be helpful. The only thing I'm looking into or thinking about is, you know, just like we had this summer when we had the Title IX discussion where Neola gave us the recommendation from, you know, after their research, they came and updated our policy that, so we have Neola on here. So I'm thinking is a lot of these groups are going to put out that information when they get the direction they're supposed to go. They will take care of this and make sure that we're still in compliance. Because I know right now, in the executive orders, there's a, hold's the wrong word, what's that called? Stay by a federal judge on those executive orders right now. So, like, doing all this work, to me, seems, if we're gonna get this information from someone later, you know, yes, I agree, so that's where I kinda, we're like, I wanna show that we don't have this here, but also if we're going to be redoing this summer when we update policy or get information from, when the courts figure out in what direction we're gonna go, then we're gonna have direction at that point anyway. That might be different than what we just had everybody go in and do. But I would like to hear too from our administrators next meeting to answer some of the questions we have.
I think my only question would be, Stevie said, if we want to prove it's not in our schools, the question would be like, what, A, who makes that decision, and B, what's enough? Because what if we say, okay, we don't have any hiring practices, we don't have any curriculum practices that are DEI centric, but there's a book in the library, or there's like, where's the line? Right, not saying I agree with any of that, but like, I feel like we would chase this, and we will chase this forever. Like, so all this work goes in, and then there's that one thing, and somebody says, ha, gotcha, told you, you lied. That would be my only thing, like, how do we make sure we capture that?
And that's when people could put in a complaint with the Office of Civil Rights. There's 5 schools in Northern Virginia right now being investigated by the OCR for gender identity policies. They're not getting rid of them, and they're gonna have funding removed, so.
From my understanding is, they're not playing around, they're gonna be aggressive with this. Since, January 20th, we've been talking about this, we pushed it back to tonight, and then we're gonna keep pushing this back. But we have an executive order on the books.
But that, like I said, that is in a state
I'm not
right
done
now, that is just like when Title IX was, that's in the same situation.
I wasn't done talking.
Sorry.
So, okay, thank you. So, it's about time we started listening to the voters. We had a vast majority of voters that were against DEI, they voted for Trump, okay? I'm still speaking. So, it's about time we start listening to our voters. We are elected officials on this board. It's not the community members that put together a strategic plan. We have the authority to do the right thing. And if our district voters are not in favor of DEI, then I think we need to remove it. And I'd like to make a motion that we eliminate the language under strategies in the strategic plan. We change the language from promote a culture of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging for all students to promote a culture of belonging for all students. Eliminate the words diversity, equity, inclusion. So I'm making that a motion at this time.
This was on for just
Bruce,
discussion
this
tonight.
item is not on the agenda for action, is that correct?
Correct, it's on for discussion tonight, yes.
But we can still make a motion. I can still make a motion.
Yep, you can.
And I'm making that motion.
Okay, motion's on the table, is there a second? Okay, no second, the motion dies. I think we have good direction right now for
Can I just-
this meeting.
can I just
So-
pause?
Sure. Yeah.
Can you just repeat what that statement, how you would have wanted that worded again?
Sure. So in one
Hang on,
point,
I just want to type down, I want to get my document up.
in 1.4.
Go ahead.
Right now it says promote a culture of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging for all students. I am making a motion to amend that to promote a culture of belonging for all students. Just belong.
So I think, and Steve, I don't disagree that if people want a say, they need to be involved. And I think that that's what this is saying. There is the people that were part of who put the strategic plan together, put these in. If you're not going to be involved, then you don't get a say in what is in the strategic plan. I mean, there are people who come in and put their time in. Shannon has a leadership cohort right now where it was open to anybody, and there's only 25 people who signed up. That's your say. If people aren't going to take the time to have their say, then how do we know their opinion? Just
People do
because they
have-
vote a certain way doesn't mean that that every single person who voted that way thinks and agrees with every single thing that someone says. So,
People do have a say, and they elected us as board members.
yep.
Okay.
Okay, so, any other thoughts on this? Otherwise, I'd like to go to the other item, 1.3 for tonight. Okay, good discussion, I think. So 1.3, the support social emotional learning, character development, and mental health of all students. Kind of thinking about the same thing here. Trying to come up with some possible questions or talking points that we could hear from administration at our next meeting, that they could help clarify. If anybody has anything to get started, Danny or Matt or.
I'll start. My same questions apply to this one as well. Again, the specific funding, programs, to my knowledge, nothing is in place, but I would like clarification on that. So the same questions apply to this one.
So I would suspect SEL, when you peel that apart, there's going to be elements of the DEI that we've been talking about that isn't desirable, and CRT, if we peel that back. We already have a ninth grade curriculum book that is anti-police. And if that isn't DEI, I don't know what is.
So again, now we're on social emotional learning, 1.3.
That's right.
So let's keep on.
Right, I am,
1.3.
and that's part of SEL.
Social emotional learning,
Correct.
okay. Okay,
I have something.
sure, yeah.
SEL has been around for a long time, since the 60s, but there's the old-fashioned SEL, and then there's what's called transformative SEL, and that is more recent, I believe, in the 2000s, and Castle is one of the leaders for that. The Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction does use Castle as a framework for our SEL, so I would like to see all pieces, information from Castle that we have on SEL.
If we use Castle.
Yeah. Because that does lean into CRT, equity, gender fluidity, systemic oppression. Those things are all within transformative SEL.
So you want to know if Somerset uses Castle and what?
I do.
And
Yep.
then what they use out of it, I guess. And then I'm guessing what trainings or what?
Trainings, curriculum.
And if we don't use it, I guess I would just say, what do we
How does it tie into culturally responsive teaching, which is also in our strategic plan?
Danny, could you repeat that one?
How does SEL tie into, or does it tie into culturally responsive teaching? And right from KSL on the DPI website, it says SEL is inequities based on, well, SEL helps inequities based on race, ethnicity, class, language, gender identity, sexual orientation, and other factors that are deeply ingrained in the vast majority of these systems and impact students and adult social, emotional, and academic learning. While SEL alone will not solve long-standing and deep-seated inequities in the education system, it can create the conditions needed for individuals and schools to examine and interrupt inequitable policies and practices, create more inclusive learning environments, and reveal and nurture the interests and assets of all individuals. So, like Steve says, I do think it ties into DEI.
You can't just put these things in a strategic plan and think they don't have any meaning, or, you know, why do we have them in there in the first place? I mean, there's a reason.
So, I guess, you know, from the Castle webpage, you know, why SEL is an integral part of education and human development. SEL is a process through which all young people and adults acquire and apply knowledge, skills, and attitudes to develop healthy identities, manage emotions, and achieve personal and collective goals. Feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain supportive relationships, and make responsible and caring decisions. So again, that's the things that I look at when I'm hearing SEL. You know, that if a student isn't regulated when they come to school, they're not going to learn. And we need to help teachers and educators and everyone understand that and show that. And there's trainings that are involved to help work kids through that and students through that. I think that only helps them learn in the classroom.
That is a slippery slope, though, to parents' responsibility.
We also have IEPs for students when they need them, right?
Well, for a special education student, but not just a regular ed student, they don't have an IEP. I mean, so, you know, this is how, and I'm not saying, I'm saying just us in general, like, just think in a broad picture, if you have an increased stress response, if you get in a car accident on your way to work, and you show up at work, you are not the same person that if you just drove to work and started working. It takes some time to regulate yourself to be ready to take on the day. If a student is having an increased stress response at home that we have nothing to do with, their learning is not going to take place.
Well, that's what you have counselors for, right?
Yeah. But they have
Counselors,
probably as
pastors,
well. Yeah, I mean, but help identifying that in students and teachers who are doing the teaching in their classroom. Like if there is, also gives them ways to work through it themselves. So they know when they're in that situation, what it takes to get themselves back down to an environment when they can learn.
That's one of my concerns too, is SEL, you know, if we have that ingrained and teachers go to, I don't know if we fund development for them that involves SEL, but SEL is basically unlicensed therapy.
We're not giving therapy, we're teaching students how to breathe, how to
That
understand
like
that they're, you know, they need to calm themselves before before they're ready to learn. I guess we just don't, a lot of this is based in trauma that students and people have, that we have to understand that not every student comes to school the same every single day.
But if all this works, then why aren't our metrics higher for academics? And DPI,
Well, I would say
actually,
I would go the other way. If we didn't have this in place, how low would we be? I mean, I have a document here I could share that shows that using restorative practices in schools helps increase test scores. And I'm sure people can find the opposite, but I have one that shows it increases. So, I mean,
are we talking about restorative practices now?
well, that is a SEL.
Okay, well then,
That is part of social emotional learning.
then I'll talk about that as well, when you're done.
And I know where you're at there, but I mean, I have research that shows that helps improve student learning.
I would love to look back at when our scores were really high. When was it, 2011, 2012? Were we doing any of these things then? It would be my question.
That's a very good question.
If you look at that though, I think you need to look at demographics of the community. There's a list in a completely different place,
Right.
2011.
Right.
So what are you saying about demographics?
I'm just saying, I think the community, could be completely different. And I think every school district has drastically changed. I mean, a lot has changed in 2011.
Well,
I don't think it's a result of just this now. I think the mental health crisis alone, I mean, you start down one rabbit hole, right? Like, where do you even stop?
But it makes me wonder, SEL isn't making things worse. If you focus on emotions constantly.
Oh, sure, I agree with you.
How's that making anything better?
I agree with you. I think the only thing I'd say is, like Bruce said, what if we weren't? Because there are a whole lot that do need the support. So, I do think there's a layer that we have to do something. I don't know the answer.
But how many counselors? We got 2 in each school, plus we have coaches, right? So we've got a vast
Coaches,
amount.
we need coaches.
Well, I mean, not sports coaches, but,
No,
so from a mental health standpoint.
what coaches? I just want to go back. What do we mean coaches?
So we've got 2 counselors in each school, right? Do we have anyone else that is support, would be handling these emotional issues besides the counselor?
Yeah, and that person was in here a couple weeks ago. I mean, you're saying our mental health coordinator?
Yeah.
One of those, yeah.
Okay. So how many staff altogether do we have for that?
We can ask. That would be,
I mean, is it more than 10?
I guess if you're talking counselors and mental health coordinator, I would say you're at that 6 or 7.
So that goes back to a question, I mean, Danny brought up something. So back in 2011, how many counselors did we have in each building, I wonder?
The big things I want to know,
Yeah.
I said it before, like with my questions,
Yeah.
I think the best starting spot is, I want to know what changed as a result of putting this in the plan. I would like to start there because,
What do we do?
I mean, there's so many questions we can start asking and trying to dig into, and not that they're bad things, but I don't know if we'll ever satisfy the conversation. As far as I'm concerned, what changed as a result of this showing up in the plan?
It's a great place to start.
And if there's something, then we can dig into that.
Yeah. Ian, any other thoughts?
No, and it's just, it seems like we're diving into trying to solve societal issues, which is kind of a double-edged sword. Do we need to be doing that? And do we need to be doing that? You know what I mean? If we need that
Well, if we need
to teach kids, is it society that's gone that way, and now you have to deal with it? Or should it be not our problem?
we need all those students to score well on our tests, and we have to give them an opportunity to learn. And we're trying to teach all students, no matter where they come from at the beginning of the day. We don't know what happens when they leave this building. Ryan, you have anything else?
The second what you were saying. And we, like, with comparing the scores of 2011, so many things have changed in the last 14 years. It's like society's been on fast forward to where it'd be hard, but it wouldn't be a horrible starting place to kind of at least get some indicators.
Lori, anything else from your end?
Just the same questions I had about DEI. I think it's very apparent that we need our administrators to explain to the board exactly what social emotional learning is in each building, what programs relate to it, and what the action steps are that pertain to the strategic plan. If we have these goals on our strategic plan, there sure should be something that's changed. I think, what are we in, year 2 of this plan? So maybe it hasn't changed yet, but I would certainly expect that sometime within the 5 years, something would have been added or done to meet the goal.
Okay, have that down. Staff, counselors, and the adult coordinators total in their district. How does SEL tie to culturally responsive teaching? What do we use, I guess it's what curriculum do we use for SEL? Is it CASEL or other? Is that a good summary?
And what the others.
And what the other is, yep. And then, Matt, what funding is tied to this statement? What programs are in place solely because of this statement?
Prior
And
strategic plan.
was this statement on prior strategic plan? We had prior strategic plan. Lori, who was that? What did we hire on the prior strategic plan that had to do with social emotional learning? We had it for like 2 years, that position.
Oh, you mean the mindfulness?
Yes.
It was it's the, one of our high school counselors became .5 guidance counseling and .5 mindfulness,
Yep.
like coach or instructor or something like that.
And then that went away after, I think, a year and a half or something.
Yeah.
What? So yeah, to your point, that probably was in there, because we didn't approve that before. What? All right, I'm trying to take notes, so everyone's gonna sit here. Anything else anybody wants to add on this topic? Otherwise, I think we had a good discussion. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thanks for everybody's input. I'll save this. I'll try to maybe clean it up a touch and send it to everybody. Copy Shannon on that, so she has some good direction. I'm sure she'll watch this discussion too, and probably have some other things to add as well. Okay, next item. Item for approval, so early graduation. Is there anybody to make a motion on the early graduation?
I'll make a motion to approve item 8A, early Graduation, policy 5464,
And then
and the memo.
I'll second that.
any discussion? All right, congratulations to that student. And then they will be here in April. No, that was the last thing.
You need to vote on that?
Yep. Just kidding. Sorry, I just want to go through sheet. Sorry, the Academic Excellence Scholarship, sorry to go back. They'll be here in April, present to them. And then this one's just approval. So, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The next item is the consent agenda. Anybody want to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda, A1, B1, 2, and C1.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 7-0. Moving on to the next item, general information. So our next work session will be March 10th. And then we will have the final regular session on March 31st. So we'll have a 3-week break because of spring break mixed in there. We'll have a listening session 30 minutes prior to the meeting on the 31st. The primary election, so congratulations to Corey Miller, Grant Lind, Ryan Telschel, Matt Foucault. They all were the top 4 in the primary, so they'll be on the April 1st election. Ian did the canvassing results tonight. Everything was good. Again, that information is still on the Q&A on the district page. And then at the next meeting, we'll have an update on when if the Chamber of Commerce does
They do a forum, yeah.
Yeah, if they do a forum, we'll make sure that gets out in the Spartan Scoop, and we'll bring it up in the next meeting. Yeah, so that's it for that one, and then this item is district celebration. Matt, I'll start with you.
I got nothing tonight.
Lori? District celebrations.
Congratulations to the cheer team. They won the state championship for their non-tumble routine and were runner-up honors for their game day routine. Congratulations.
Awesome. Steve?
The art festival this evening, unfortunately, missed it.
We're a little late, but it goes until 8:15. So, Ryan?
I have nothing for this meeting.
Ian?
I will start with thanking Becky Newman and Kaylee Kern for helping me canvass the election results. And as always, Felicia has everything laid out for us and makes it really easy, because she's just really good like that. And thank you to Ms. Pierre at Flater for presenting. I was gonna say the cheer team, but
Thanks, Ian. Hockey teams, or we had a coach who was a district coach of the year for the boys, Dan Gilkerson. The hockey team is both playing tomorrow night, right, Matt? I think they're home tomorrow night.
Yeah, yes.
And then girls basketball playoffs start tomorrow as well. Boys basketball playoffs start next week, so boys and girls hockey both play tomorrow night. So if you can get to one of those 3 events, see what you can do. And as we roll down to the end of the year, again, I want to shout out to the Spartan live stream, who does a lot of the basketball games, wrestling matches, different events at the school. And if you listen to any other schools, as I do, they are so much better than the other schools, so much more entertaining to listen to. They're really, really good and really helps the game go on more than just announcing what's happening. So I really appreciate that crew for all they do. I think it's Will Rossmiller, Cody Wallen, Keaton Anderson, Josh Wells, and Izzy Osborne, who does most of the videoing. So thanks to them for doing that.
Yep, congratulations to cheer as well, and also wrestling is headed to Madison for state this week as well.
And Mateo, is that his name?
Mateo, yep.
Mateo, qualified for state, so. All right, awesome, I'll take a motion, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Say Matt,
I'll second.
Lori, Matt seconds, Lori gets the motion, all those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you, thanks Lori, thanks everybody.